was one of those people who saw something needed to be done and went about doing it. Well, in 1905, very significant year on this program, in 1905, William Nickerson Jr. had been a teacher, but he was encountering two problems. One, racism, and two, they wasn't getting paid enough money. So he was looking to do something else. Now one morning, he's going to this restaurant. There's this beautiful restaurant, but they won't let him in because he was black. Directed him to another restaurant, which was not beautiful. In fact, it was rather funky, and not the good funk. But sometimes, good things come out of the funky funk. While sitting in that restaurant, he meets a man who invites him to become an insurance salesman. He jumps at the chance. Not just jumps at it, but jumps into it full body and takes off quickly. He's selling insurance left, right, up, down, and sideways. And at one point, there was an issue with this insurance company, so he and some of his fellow employees, they started their own life insurance company. Now, he was not someone who was just content to see what was going on and not do anything about it. So while working with this insurance company and others, he noticed that there was one black newspaper there where he was, and there should be another. So there in Houston, he started another paper, and then in time, another one after that. The Democratic Party of the time, and you know, I don't know, you all know what the Democratic Party was like back then. They were racist as all get out of the South. William Nickerson Jr. went to court, sued them. Now, how do you think they felt about that? You may respond. Audience participation. How do you think they felt about that? Yeah. They found out where he lived. Somebody called him up. Said, nigga, what you doing trying to sue white people? We coming for you tonight. Just like Charlotta, he and his family, they were waiting. And they were ready. And they didn't come that night. But on other nights they did. A cross was burnt in front of their home. And William's wife said, we got to go. And so they came to Los Angeles. But they didn't just come to Los Angeles. Now, back in those days, if you were black and traveled on the train, what kind of service do you think you might get? So William Nickerson Jr. hired a car for his family so they would have everything they needed on the trip. Got here to Los Angeles and found out that there was nobody who would insure black people here in Los Angeles. Not nary none. Well, he went to investigate what it would take to set up an insurance company here. Talked to a lawyer. The lawyer said, yeah, I know exactly what it'll take. Give me $1,500 and I'll tell you. William Nickerson Jr. wasn't spending $1,500 for a lawyer, but he spent $27 for some law books. And he sat down and studied the law and found out exactly what was needed to be done. It wasn't easy. Couple of things. Had to raise 15 grand. Had to find 500 people who would pay for insurance for a company that did not exist yet. William Nickerson Jr. put his mind to it and he met some people. He met Norman Houston and George Beaver. Norman Houston was his first hire, and then George Beaver. They went, they got the 15 grand. They got the 500 people. They had an an insurance company. Opened up offices on Central Avenue, and quickly they grew to a bigger space, Not only were they growing, but they were helping people. Now, this all started here around 1925. In 1929, what happened? The crash. But you know something? Golden State Mutual Life Insurance Company rode through that fine. Not only did they ride through it fine, but they were able to employ people and to expand up and down the West Coast and all over the country. William Nickerson Jr. was one of those people. The kind of people we've been talking about, the kind of people that you know that see something and they do something about it. Now, that company would continue to grow and expand. Oh my goodness. World War II came. It continued to grow and expand. William Nickerson Jr. died suddenly at the age of 66, 1945. He wouldn't get to see so many of the things that would happen. He wouldn't get to see how that insurance company would continue to grow and expand. He wouldn't get to see the new building, that building on Adams and Western that was designed by a black architect, Paul R. Williams. He wouldn't get to see that building. He wouldn't get to see the artwork that would be exhibited in that building that was coordinated by William Peugeot, a local artist. He wouldn't get to meet his grandchildren, several of whom are here in the audience tonight. But he started something. He started something, and he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid to take that chance. He wasn't afraid to make that leap. Now, William Nickerson Jr., I understand, was a motivator. And there was something that he liked to read to his staff. This was sent to me by Kim, his granddaughter here. It's called The Little Black Hen. Said the little red rooster, gosh, all hemlock, things are tough. Seems that worms are getting scarcer and I cannot find enough. What's become of all those fat ones is a mystery to me. There were thousands through the rain spell, but now where can they be? The old black hen heard him, didn't grumble or complain. She had gone through lots of dry spells. She had lived through flood and rain. So she flew up on the grindstone and she gave her claws a wet and she said, I've never seen the time when there were no worms to get. She picked a new and undug spot. The earth was hard and firm. The little rooster jured, new ground, that's no place for a worm. Old black hen just spread her feet. She dug both fast and free. I must go to the worms, she said. The worms won't come to me. The rooster wanly spent his days through habit by the ways where fat worms had passed in squads back in the rainy days. When nightfall found him supperless, he growled in accents rough, I'm hungry as a fowl can be. Conditions sure are tough. He turned then to the old black hen and said, it's worse for you. For you're not only hungry, but you must be tired too. I rested while I watched for worms, so I feel fairly pert. But how are you? Without worms too? And after all that work? The old black hen hopped to her perch and drooped her eyes to sleep, and murmured in a drowsy tone, young man, hear me and weep. I'm full of worms and happy, for I dine both long and well. The worms are there as always, but I had to dig like hell. There is an exhibit at the California African American Museum on the artwork from Golden State Mutual. Go there and see this, because this is some serious history. Many of you know Zambezi Bazaar, the Kimbroughs, another branch of the family. I got to tell you this before I go on to Francis and closing. When we were doing this project at the Southern California Library, we were all sitting and we're looking at who we could pick, and I saw this name, William Nickerson Jr. I said, Nickerson. I wonder if that has anything to do with Nickerson Gardens. Across the bookcase was Kim Nickerson. And she answered all my questions and then some. And then the very next day, I was at Zambezi Bazaar. And I was very excited about this project. And I was telling them about the project. And they said, we're Nickersons too. And there was a woman shopping in the store. She said, I'm Nickerson. I said, they everywhere. And I've been running into Nickersons and people about this project ever since I started. Now, let me tell you about Francis E. Williams. How many of you knew Francis? Anybody here knew Francis? I know Leslie did. There was a couple of y'all. Meet it, greet it, and defeat it. Now, Francis E. Williams was born back in New Jersey. But when she was very young, they moved to Cleveland. 5 years old, Francis E. Williams